Hello. Hey, Side Hustle Sam. Just getting set up here. Hi, Carrie. I think that Carrie and Sam have both been on the lives before. How are you guys doing? Hi, Belinda. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I don't recognize your name, so I'm glad to see that you're here today. I'm trying a new faster connection mode, so hopefully that will help to eliminate some of the lag that we've had on the last few live sessions that we've had. That's right, Carrie. Remind me of your first name. Is it Carrie? And Side Hustle Sam has got 3 months. Wow, good for you. I hadn't done that long either until earlier this year, and to be honest, it went really well. Obviously, the profit was a little bit lower, but it definitely paid the bills, earned some profit, so um, it's great during the pandemic. That's right, Carrie. That is your first name. I remember the Hot Spring Sherpa. Yeah, your places are amazing. Before we get started, why don't you tell me a little bit about the progress? So, for those of you who don't know or but probably weren't on that specific live, Carrie is building. Is it three? I think it's two brand new cottages. They're not cottages; they're homes, really, on the side of this beautiful mountain. Um, in Hot Springs. So what the last I saw his Instagram, he was I think they were the building envelope was wrapped and you were working on interior stuff, I think. Yeah, two homes, giving it a second for the feet to catch up. Oh wow, Carrie's almost done. He's got his first guest in February. Congratulations. Sam is well on his way to expansion too. He's got his third going in February. And he's converting it into a short-term rental. Yeah. By all accounts, here in Canada, we will be with a full vaccine rollout by the summer. So now's the time to get things ready for the return to travel and to short-term rentals and hopefully life as normal life as we used to know it. Carrie is saying that he's almost done all the construction, so that's got to be exciting. All right. Sam is saying he is oh, we saw that one a little nervous. Okay, so it's 9:05. Let's dive into the official portion of the live Q&A. So thank you again for joining me live. I've scheduled about 30 minutes for this live tonight. So if you have a question, be sure to type it into the question and answer or the comment box, I should say, and I'll do my best to answer all of them. I've become a bit of an expert on hosting during the pandemic, thanks to months and months of research and lots of trial and error. So if you have questions about hosting during the pandemic, be sure that you ask those too. And so before we do the question and answer, like normal, I'm going to give you a little bit of instruction or mentorship. And this week, I'm going to show you how to set up an automated message inside Airbnb. If you don't know me, and I think that there are a couple of you who don't, my name is Matt. I'm the creator of Airbnb Uncovered.com, as well as an Airbnb superhost. I've been hosting now, well, it's for sure over 5 years because I got my 5 years, 5 consecutive years as a superhost status or rating or achievement, if you will, earlier this year in 2020. So it's for sure over 5 years. In that time, I've hosted just about 3,500 guests. So that's tons of guests. And at my high, I think I had 11 properties, either of my own or under, well, not of my own, some of my own and some under management. And so, yeah, I'm still running my Airbnb business. Things are a little bit slower due to a lot of the automation that I've added into my business, as well as some longer term stays that Sam and I were just talking about a second ago. So I've now started devoting more of my time to helping new hosts earn more and to succeed during the pandemic. So I want to walk you through fairly quickly because I did an entire video on how to add automated messages to your Airbnb platform or to your profile, if you will. And so just today, quickly, I'm going to walk you through just the how to set it up part. And then we'll do some questions and answers. You can watch the entire video on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to put a link to it in the chat right now. There it goes. So let me flip over to my screen share so I can show you how to. Oh, what's going on? Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Select a window. That's the one. And then I click allow. All right, it's here. I turn it on. I'm in the corner. This is cool. This is a new feature I haven't used yet, so bear with me. But then I need to get to that screen. Okay, so from this screen, this is your standard messaging screen. I'm trying not to show it too long so you can't see everything to protect guests' privacy. I don't want you to see their last names. I think first names are fine. But from this messaging area at the very bottom where you would type your message, you're going to click on this little box that looks like a chat with a clock in the upper right-hand corner. And that is going to bring up a new window where you can create scheduled messages. Just quickly, what's a scheduled message? A scheduled message is a pre-written message that you will craft in advance, and then the Airbnb system will automatically send that message to your guests based on a certain trigger. Now, what's a trigger? A trigger is whatever you set it to be. And there are three types of triggers that you can use for message automation on Airbnb. The first is, excuse me, the first is after a confirmed reservation is made. The second is check in, and the third is check out. And I'll show you exactly how those works. But basically what happens is when one of those three events happens, Airbnb will send a message based on how you set it up. So the example I used in the YouTube video was a message for that would go out immediately after we got a confirmed booking. So for tonight, what I'll do is I'll set up another message, and this time the message will be sent right before the guest is scheduled to check in. So, oh no, Carrie says the desktop is not being shown. Are you sure, Carrie? If I turn I come back on. I'm going to close that. And here I am again. Oh no, the audio disappeared. Goodness. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, now I'm back apparently. How much did you get? You probably just saw me clicking on the screen and not talking. Gosh, technology. Just when I think that I make things better, I make them worse. Um, d Should I go back? Do you guys want me to go back and talk over the screen share? Tracy says she's late, but trust me, Tracy, you just missed it. A technical blunder where we were live with no audio. Hi, AJ. Thanks for joining. I can go back quickly if we want. Okay, so we'll do a shortened version of how to create a message, an automated message inside Airbnb. So let me see if I can do this properly. I'm going to turn the screen share on. Can you guys still hear me with the screen share? Tracy, I would love to start all over again, but I don't know that's fair to the others who are on the live at the moment. So I will. I'll give everybody a quick summary because we had those audio problems. Okay, so you guys can see me, you can hear me. Let me just go back to the screen share. So here I am, I believe. Let me just double check. So I'm going to go back once more. Okay. Uh, okay, whoops, that didn't work. Okay. All right. Now you can see too much of my messages. And to start creating an automated message on Airbnb, you click from any message. So any message, this in the bottom, which is a box that looks like a chat box with a clock on the upper right-hand side. You click on that and you get scheduled messages, a pop-up, and you click create scheduled message. I'm just going to pause for 1 sec, go back to my feed. Is the audio working? Can we hear? Can we see? Giving it a sec. Okay, we've got, no, not yet. Just waiting for the feed to catch up. Okay, Tracy says yes, perfect. Okay, so to create a scheduled message, you need to give it a name. So I will give it the name check-in instructions. Typo, I'm going to leave it. I was showing you how to use something called the short code. And what that is that a short code will pull actual data out of Airbnb. So if I want to address my message to the guest and use their first name, then I can click on the short codes. I click on guest first name, and when this message is actually sent, it won't say guest first name. It'll say like, hi, George. And if you click it twice, as you saw I just did, you'll get it twice. So just do a backspace to get rid of it. And there are all kinds of shortcodes that you can use to personalize your message. So you can use check-in date. So instead of it saying check-in date, it will say Friday, January 15th, 2021. And there's all different ones, check in, check out, your check-in time, reservation code, listing name, and there's a bunch here that you can go through and look. Even, actually, I'm just noticing now, you can put in your house rules, and Airbnb will scrape the house rules off of your listing and put them into the message. I won't go any further with actually typing a mess, but I just wanted to show you this is where you type the message. I wanted to show you what a shortcode is and why it's good to use them because it personalizes your message. Once you've got your message written, you move down to this lower part of the pop-up window. If you have more than one listing, then you can tell Airbnb which listings to send this message for. So perhaps you would have different check-in instructions for each one of your listings. So you wouldn't want to send the same message to all your guests, regardless of the listing they're in. So you could pick what listing a message applies to. And to do that, you just click it and press save. But the really important thing that merits a bit of time is this thing called scheduling. So earlier I mentioned that it was called a trigger. Airbnb is calling it an action, but it's the same thing. And there are 3 of them. So these are events that happen and they are going to trigger Airbnb to send the message that you just created. You have 3 of them. The first is a confirmed booking. The second is the check-in date. And the third is the checkout date. So once you click on any one of these, you're going to get a few more options. And so here, if the action is check-in, and then you click the day, you can either set the message to go a specific number of days before the check-in, or you can set it for a specific number of days after the check-in. If you're sending check-in instructions, you're going to want those to go before because the guest needs them before they arrive. If you are sending a message like a check-in message that's asking the guest how their stay is going, you're going to want to send that early in the guest stay. So then you're going to select 1 or 2 or 3 days after the guest has arrived. Conversely, if you want to remind your guest about their checkout, your guest could only be staying for 1 night, or they could be staying for 3 weeks. So you wouldn't use the check-in trigger, you would use the checkout trigger. And again, you get options. Do you want to send it 14 days before they check out, the day of, the day before, the day after? So you get lots of options. And then you can specify the time that you want that message to be sent. If you want it to be sent early in the morning, late at night, whatever. So I'm just going to pick 12 p.m. And because we were pretending it was a check-in message, I'll select check-in, reselect 12 p.m., and I'm going to send it 3 days before, which I think is plenty of time to receive check-in instructions. And you click save, and that is how you create an automated message on Airbnb. The day after. I do encourage you to watch the video that I did on this, especially probably the last 2 or 3 minutes, because I go into further detail about specific rules that you need to be careful of when selecting or when relying on scheduled messages. So if you get a last minute booking, but your check-in instructions are scheduled to go 3 days before a guest arrive, well, if the guest books the same day, the message isn't going to be sent and you're going to have to do it on your own, do it manually. So I do talk about a couple of those. So definitely worth checking out. And again, I'll put the link to my channel so that you can go over and check that out. I'm going to turn off the screen share. Done. Now I'm back and I want to open it up for live questions and answers. So the questions can be related to how to create an automated message. It can also be anything about hosting, and it can be about hosting during the pandemic. So I'm here. I know I said I had about 30 minutes, but because of those technical difficulties, I'll stay for, let's call it another 10 minutes for questions. And for my veteran live attendees, there is a tiny bit of a delay. I think it's about 5 seconds between what I say by the time it gets to you and then by the time you type and it gets back to me. I'm still doing my best to try to minimize that lag. I've got a wired connection. I'm using a different browser. So this seems to be an ongoing technical challenge. So Tracy asks, I wish you could send the message on the same day as the booking. You absolutely can. So perhaps I went a little bit fast, but if you do confirmed booking and then you do same day, you can do it on the same day. I would probably just want to experiment a little because there's going to be a cutoff time there. So for reservations up to a certain point, they will still go for the same day. But then after that, it's going to be too late. Because if you think about it, that rule is going to apply to all of your reservations. So if you wait to send that message, like you set the rule up for like 7 o'clock, well, most of your guests have probably checked in around 3. So they would never get that message with the automation. So it's probably best to set it up maybe 3 days in advance and then just remember that any reservation you get within 3 days of a check in, you have to send the instructions manually. Um, Belinda asked, sorry, I think I'm missing some questions. You guys flooded me with them, so I'll work backwards. Belinda is asking, oh, okay. That one is related to parties. Let's just go back here. Okay. So Belinda says we have 2 properties in Texas, wine country. Ooh, fun. Um, yeah, and I also didn't know. So as I was reading, I'm like, Texas is a wine country? Thank you for telling us. Um, Oh no, bachelorette weekends. I've increased it 3 days. So yes, those are absolutely great strategies for party prevention. I have an entire video on party prevention. So that is definitely one strategy. I talk a lot in the video about party prevention technology. And what that generally comprises of is video cameras, noise detection monitors, and access control through like remote smart locks. So I'll find you a link before I get off the live and I'll put it in the comments so that you can go and watch that video. Um, the biggest thing, though, that I would suggest for you is when you're getting a booking, you have to ask tons of questions up front. And if you get a bad feeling about the answers that you're getting, then always cut bait. Airbnb, oddly enough, is one of those businesses where your gut feeling definitely plays a role. And so you can see my degree things behind here as someone who's been trained for 7 8 years in university and master's level, gut is never supposed to play into it. um, it does in choosing guests. And so ask lots of questions, follow your gut, and don't be afraid to cancel a reservation if you aren't liking what's coming about. So I hope that answers your question, Belinda. Carrie has another question, or a question. This is another question in the live. He wants to talk about pricing for the summer with the demand being high. How much over your base rate am I going to charge? So that pricing questions, Carrie, they're always related to the market. And when I say the market, I don't mean the hotel market because generally speaking, a guest who is searching on Airbnb is not also going to be performing a parallel search on Hotwire or Priceline or something like that. So the best way to set your price is to look at what the market is going to be doing. Now, it's January, there is a pandemic raging. What should you be setting for June? To be honest, I would set probably a little bit on the high side to give yourself some room to come down. And then as the date approaches, I would start surveying the market on on what they're charging. In my pandemic hosting mastery program, I actually have an entire lesson devoted on how to do a proper market analysis or a profit market survey because there is some nuance to doing it correctly. So yeah, I would set high right now, set what you think you can command, and then as the date's near, I would be checking my local market and then adjusting as needed. If you have, this is for everybody. If you have a follow-up question after I answer, put it in the comment and we'll come back to it. This one is from Sam, Side Hustle Sam. Do I decline guests who have negative feedback from other hosts? If so, how do you reply when you send them the message to that guest to say declined? Um, One thing right off the bat, and I don't mean to insult you if this does. So I want to make sure that we're talking about the difference between an inquiry and a request. So inquiries, I never decline. I have a video about that that you can go check out. Requests, you always have to decline because it's one of your key hosting stats. So I'm going to assume that we're talking about a request here. And do I decline guests with negative feedback from previous hosts? 99.9% of the time. And what do I tell them? I tell them exactly that. I say, thanks for your request. I'm sorry, I'm not interested based on negative, based on a past review from our previous host. 8 times out of 10, that's the last I hear from them. Nine, 1 or 2 times out of 10, they'll come back and say, oh, that host wasn't fair and whatever. It depends how busy I am. If I'm really busy, I ignore it. If I've got the time and I need the reservation, then I will go to the guest profile, click on the negative review, then click on that host's profile, then go to the host, like that host listing, to see what kind of a host they are. Do they host all the time? Are they a one-off host? What kinds of reviews have they gotten? What's their rating? Are they a super host? And then so let's say I have a guest and the host just seems unreasonable. They have bad reviews, then maybe I'll give them a chance. If I did, I would run down like a bunch of my house rules and talk about the fines that I institute if my house rules aren't followed, just so that the guest is like really sure that they're ready to deal with everything that comes with staying with me. And chances are if they're not ready for all that, then they just leave me alone. So yeah, the one kind of exception is if I go and look at the host and I don't have a lot of faith in the host, or maybe they don't have a lot of house rules, maybe they've got poor reviews, then yeah, maybe I'll give them a chance. But that's not a usual occurrence for me over at the Airbnb Uncovered world. Sam's got another question. I did not, Sam. I meant to. I totally meant to. So Sam's question is, did I test letting air? So Sam is wondering if I turned on smart pricing for one of my listings. I did. The one I was going to list, or to try it on, got booked for like 3 weeks, basically from when we talked to now. And so that guest is checking out on the 22nd, which is 15th, so next week. So when that listing comes back online, I will try it and I will let you know. How is it working for you? Is probably a more important question. Are you still seeing that increase in bookings? And just quickly, to the reason Sam is asking me about this is so on a previous live, he was sharing with us that he turned smart pricing on, which is a feature inside Airbnb. It's been around for 3 years. When it came out, there was tons of backlash from the host community saying that it was pricing everything too low and that it just really didn't do a good job of adjusting for highs in the market when there was demand. So say on a long weekend, a big concert coming up. And see, Tracy says she would never use it, probably for that reason. So Sam just decided to turn it on and he got a bunch of bookings all at once. He was obviously being shown higher in search, more often on the first page of search. And so this kind of debate that we're having is it working, or like, should we all do this? Yeah, so Sam, let me put the comment up on screen. He is saying that his bookings have increased 100%. So basically, you have twice as many bookings. and he does set a minimum. Uh, So I get what you're saying, Sam. You've set the minimum to 60. I think the problem hosts were having is they were setting a minimum that they knew was legit, and instead of pricing like where they would have priced, so they might have been experienced like me and know what my unit can command in, say, June. Um, and then turn on smart pricing, check your price, and they're $20 or $30 less than what you know that you can earn. And I think that's where the frustration came from. But I am so actually, Sam, follow up question from me this time. Uh, how often are you at $60? So I will answer Belinda's question and then I will come back to yours, Sam. We'll get the answer to that. Um, So Belinda asks, have I tried the new cancellation policy? So I did get that request as well. I did not. I did not accept it because even though they're calling it strict, and I have to go back and look. Let me see if I can do that quickly. If I maybe you can correct me, Belinda. The basically it's giving them almost up until it's giving a guest almost up until like the 24 hours before, 48 hours before to cancel and get a full refund, which is basically the old flexible policy, which I've never been a huge fan of. So let me just check to see if I can find the details for that quickly, if it's still popping up for me as something they want me to do. Announcements, opportunities. Oh, see, I think they have realized that I can't find it. They're not still asking me to join that new cancellation policy. If you could just remind me, Belinda, what the terms are, but I'm almost positive it was basically calling it strict, and then it was actually a flexible policy. And also, question for you: did you try it? And if so, how did it work? Sam is saying that yeah, his he is seeing fluctuations. So Sam is talking about smart pricing. He is seeing fluctuations in the price, so between 65 and 70, and that's great. If that is where you like, if that's a reasonable price for you and you're liking the up and down, then great. And I also have done an entire video about the difference between holding out for a law, like your higher price, and then or accepting bookings at a lower price but getting more of them. And you can watch the entire video. I go through the method of how I do it and the calculations so you can see. But every time a host who lowers their price to a more reasonable range and gets more bookings is always going to make more money than a host that leaves their price up high and waits for the market to meet their price. And like I said, there's a whole video, calculations and graphs and little. Actually, I was pretty proud of that video. It took a lot of work, and it shows you how um, the way your sales change over different booking percentages, and then compares the two. And I think it's pretty cool. I hope you'll check it out. What else do we? So Belinda has answered our question about whether or not she is going for that new pricing or the new cancellation policy, and she said she was just going to wait and see. Um, so yeah, my advice, Belinda, is just really read through it closely. I'm almost positive when I read through the new cancellation policy, it was just too. It gave the guests too much flexibility, and um, like the trend right now is for last minute bookings, and so I do want to keep my calendar open for those bookings. And I still don't really love letting a guest tie up my calendar for weeks in advance and then a day before they decide not to come because for instance, here in Toronto, yesterday we went into a new lockdown order. So if you had booked a trip, you're probably not going to come anymore. So, um, yeah. Um, I think Tracy and Sam are having a bit of a side conversation. So he's got his base price at 60. Tracy, be careful. 60 for Sam might work. 60 for me also works in some of my listings. Um, it's not about like smart pricing. If you want to use it, it's not about a magic low price. It's about setting the low price that works for you in your market. Thank you, Valinda. She is in agreement that it sounds like uh, they have just disguised flexible cancellation policy with and calling it strict with auction. Oh, Airbnb, sometimes you frustrate us. Uh, I'm just going back through the chat. Sam has an interesting point. He finds that so when he has higher rates, his guests are more difficult to deal with, and they leave lower ratings because of their higher expectations, and that is 100% true. You want your pricing to be reflective of the quality of the offering that you have. I'll tell you a quick story. I have, like I said, I 60 is within the possible range for me during the slow season, especially during January, especially like during a normal year, not specifically this year, but so about 3 years ago, I had a guest. I even dropped it to 50, if I'm not mistaken. I had a guest who came here for 2 nights and $50. That was it. And so this unit in particular in the summer would easily rent over $200 a night. And so January, fill in the inventory. I read the review, and this is way back when I used to do in-person check-ins, and she seemed to like it. She was impressed by the building, blah blah blah. And so I read the review, and she totally trashed my bed, my pillows, my couch. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, these are all premium, like a premium memory foam gel thing mattress and like fancy feather pillows. And like, it blew my mind away that somebody who had booked for so low. So perhaps the opposite of what Sam is saying, but it just reminds me of how sometimes you just can't please every guest. Tracy is telling us that she just bought a small house where she can go lower with it. Tracy, I really hope that you can take a minute and, well, I think it's about 10 minutes to be honest, and watch that video I did about the different levels of price and the different levels of profit at different pricing levels. And I hope that I've done the video in a way that it applies to everybody. Like I do use an example, but the example is universal. I put on like I was a formerly designated CPA. I don't pay for the dues anymore, so I'm not designated anymore, and I've got an MBA. So I threw all of my analysis at that, and then I tried to make it as simple as possible. So have a look at that video so that you can fully understand what happens with higher price, lower occupancy, middle price, more occupancy. And I even take it a step further and I say low price, high occupancy, what happens? Um, Thank you, Tracy, saying she will watch it. This is actually a good point. So, Tracy, I noticed earlier you were asking Sam, you said you had your base rate set lower as well. Um, I haven't used smart pricing in a while, but I don't think it's changed. There is a difference, and Airbnb does this in different ways. So if you don't have smart pricing on, you are going to get a a base rate that you enter for your listing. Now that base rate is used if again if without smart pricing on is going to be used to populate the newly available dates that you haven't already like that you haven't overridden the price for. So Let me give you an example. Let's say you have your availability set to the next 30 days, and you've gone into your calendar and you've set all your prices for each one of those 30 days. Well, tomorrow, in order for Airbnb to continue to show 30 days worth of availability, 31 days from now or from tomorrow will now be made available. Airbnb needs to know what price to set, and they'll put your base rate in. When you're using smart pricing, base rate is something entirely different. Base rate, you're setting a base rate within smart pricing for that's the lowest price that you're willing to accept. And then smart pricing is going to vary your price over that based on the demand, the percent occupancy in your neighborhood, and all these different factors. And so just want to be careful with the difference between a base rate and the base rate in smart pricing. Uh, And actually, Tracy, if you're not using smart pricing and you are always updating your prices in your calendar, which you should be doing to please the search algorithm, your base rate may never ever be used. And you guys probably don't have a lot of interest in this, but about 6 months ago, for years, Airbnb, when you did a search, the base rates would show up, and then the guests would click on the dates and then see the true rate, and it caused unbelievable frustration amongst guests. And so about 6 months ago, they finally did away with it. And the price that's shown in the search now is the lowest price that you have for the next whatever. I don't know. They have a period and they pick the lowest rate. And so the base rate is almost completely gone. So Tracy is saying, she might give it a try if Sam got more bookings. And that was basically my answer too. I was like, let's just see what happens. I'll try it for a week or two. And if I get more bookings, like, yeah, you can set your lowest rate. So it's not going to go any lower than that. So I'll try and see what happens. And then Sam might make all of us millionaires here. We don't know. So Sam is saying where he hosts, uh, 800 per month to, oh wow, yeah, Sam's got the math down pat. I won't read it to you because it's right there on the screen. um yeah, of course you can. uh oh wait, no, Sam, I think your math is off a little bit. So it's 60 a night. 6 times 3 is 1800. How do you get to 25 or 3? Is it because you're like 60 is your lowest and then you're varying through the month? uh So, Sam, we have two questions for you. I have my question about your math, and Tracy wants you to lead the live next time. Janet has a question or a comment, I think. I'm not sure if you were following on the new modified strict policy. I actually like it. Yeah, that would be great, Janet, if you could put it, if you can cut and copy it. Okay, Sam answers the question about the math. So because $60 isn't every night for him, it's just a few of the nights, and then he is earning 25 to 3,000. And that's fantastic, Sam, because generally my rule of thumb is you can double the long-term rents for a similar property using Airbnb, but you're like 2,500 is already triple that. So um let me see to Janet if you can't get. Hmm, let's just see. Airbnb modified strict cancellation. Oh, there's a lot of. Don't know if I can find this quickly. Moderate strict. Yeah. Oh, so Janet is saying that it is more strict. Hmm. I will tell you what, I will research the modified strict policy and I will let you all know about it next week because we're back to January. Work is back in session, no more holidays and special projects for me. So um I will be back here next week on a live. So why don't I research that and come back to it? And maybe I'll make a video about it. Tracy is saying she's crazy and she does a flexible. Excuse me. It's not crazy. There was data about 4 months ago that said that hosts who had flexible cancellation policies were actually earning more than hosts with the moderate or the strict. And so, in this crazy pandemic, uncertain time, it's not a bad strategy. Um, Under normal conditions, I'm not in favor of the flexible cancellation policy simply because it can tie up your calendar and guests aren't serious when they book and then they know that they can cancel and pick something else or whatever. But in today's climate, it's totally a reasonable strategy. That so Tracy is saying that she is usually if someone cancels, she gets rebooked. That's super lucky. Tracy, did you tell us where you host? What is your market like? Let's see, be close to the top. No, I don't think you did. So Tracy, we are curious if where you host. Um, Sam is saying that he's been burned with more flexible. I've been burned with more flexible too. And at 10 listings, those burns are hot. Um, Tracy is in Green Bay. I'm Canadian, so I'm not as good at the two letter state abbreviations with Wisconsin. Um, I'm in Toronto, Canada. Sam, I forget exactly where Sam is, but let's just go up here to Janet has summarized the new strict policy. So in order for me to see it, I have to take it. Okay, there we go. So it allows guests to cancel up to 30 days and pay 50% up to 14 days and then 100% after that. They did not have the 30-day option before. It allows guests to cancel up to 30 days. I'm gonna have to research that, Janet, because the reason I don't think it had 30 days before is because anything before the 14 days was irrelevant. It was as long as it was before 30 days, you could get your money back. Or before 14 days, you could get your money back. Um, there's also a session or a lesson inside my pandemic hosting mastery program on cancellation policies. So I'm going to have to check there. And again, some Airbnb history way back in the day. Strict cancellation policy meant no refund ever. So once they booked, it was fully non refundable. And like Sam says, then as a host, you get to make your own decision about because you can always refund the guest, even you can override your policy. And he's like Sam is saying, he's allowed guests to get refunds. I have as well, depending on the circumstances. Belinda, I again like it's hard to say what works for one host will work for another. And so Belinda is saying cancellations are easily filled in a 6 person house, but not for her 10 person house. And I would agree, especially all of the vetting that is required for your 10 person house, like avoiding those bridal showers that you were, or bridesmaids parties that you were asking me about earlier. And I'm just thinking here, I can already read the messages. I'm getting married, and me and my best friends are just looking for a place. We're going to be really quiet and well behaved. We don't drink." And then you show up, and it's like stripper city and booze bottles everywhere. Oh, guests. Tracy says Wisconsin, so I'm getting better. I will definitely research the new cancellation policy, the strict modified or whatever it's called, and get back to you. Um, so yeah, I think that's where we've gotten way over. So I want to thank you all for joining me live. I really hope that I was able to give you at least some information that you can take away. As you know, I don't work for Airbnb. I've just been a host for a long time. I'm a bit of a geek and I read their policies. I've read their terms of service more than one, like multiple times. And I don't want to say I've seen it all, but I have seen a lot, like a lot, in 3,500 guests in 10 different types of properties, from standalone houses to condos to luxury penthouses. Um, so someday we'll all get together after the pandemic is over. We'll have a few drinks and I'll spill the worst ones. But again, thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. I referenced a few things here tonight that are in videos. So just have a quick look over there for the videos that I referenced. One of them is Prevent Parties, which is a big one. The other one is on profit. Let me see if I can find both of those. This one makes me laugh, Belinda. Got one at midnight earlier this week. It said it was a bachelorette party, 12 p.m. check-in. Yeah, exactly. Declined. Sam wants to quickly see the degrees. All right, Sam, let me see what I can do. I am plugged in to a million things. So there are my lights for the YouTube stuff. So the blue one is an undergrad degree in business. The red one is a master's, and this other blue one that you can't really see is a honors society club. And I used to have over there, which is now a calendar that needs to be filled out. I used to keep my designation up there, but because I don't pay for it, I'm technically not allowed to display it. But they can't take away the fact that I did spend like 2 years studying everything there is to know about accounting and business. So I just can't say that I'm a CPA. And I will honor their agreement, I suppose, that I made when I took all those tests, which was that you can't say you're something that you're not unless you pay for it. So I did pay, and then now I don't practice accounting. So it's like $2,000, $3,000 a year for not really much of anything. Yes, Sam, I did do a master's in business as well. It seems that all I wanted to study was business. I liked it. I enjoyed it, and that's why I think that I look at Airbnb in a slightly different perspective, because it's always got to make money for me. All right. Well, I won't keep you any longer. This is, I promised 30 minutes at the beginning, and now we're way over. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for sticking with me during my technical challenges. As you know, I switched to Windows. I couldn't see your comments, so I went on for a few minutes. My face is turning red again. So thank you again. And Tracy, every Thursday are my lives. I don't know yet. I'm trying different times to see when people are most available. It's usually either Thursday or Friday. Sometimes, so this is the first evening one we've done. Most often they've been at 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday. But if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you will get an alert when I go live. And I think you also get an alert when I create the the live session. So like yesterday I created for today. Sam, the school name. So my undergrad is, so I'm Canadian. These are all Canadian schools. Undergrad is a school called St. Francis Xavier University. And the master's is from a school called St. Mary's University, both in Nova Scotia, Canada. All right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody. I will hope to see you all next week. Bye for now.